Hi guys. As you know, Dehya is the new hotness or the new coldness. I'm not really sure. But I've been hearing people say she's bad in Burgeon. But my experience so far has shown me that Dehya is actually pretty decent in Burgeon. I used this free to play friendly team to get 36 stars in the Abyss. This team could do about a minute and a half clears on the second half, the hardest content in the game. So even if she's not great, she can absolutely clear content. If you're interested, I'll put a link to that Abyss run in the description. But in this video, I want to address some of the misconceptions I've heard about Dehya and Burgeon, and there will also be a showcase at the end. The first is that she is wasting cores. So people see that in my setup, I make a lot of blooms and then I burgeon them with her skill's first hit. Those are just the initial blooms though and have nothing to do with Dehya's kit. But after that, I tend to make 2 or 3 cores while her field is active. According to Genshin's damage sequence, each enemy can only take 2 instances of damage from bloom-related reactions like burgeon in a half a second. First, I'd like to note that this is per enemy, and you should be using burgeon against multiple enemies. Regardless, since I can often get 3 cores, people tell me that I'm wasting the extra core. However, I don't think this is completely true, and it's even a good thing to have more cores, so let me explain. More cores means more AoE. Burgeon is restricted to a certain area and can only hit enemies in a certain range. One core will have a small range, and since blooms tend to pop out on different parts of the field, it increases the effective range with each new core, and cores that are a little apart can hit different enemies. For example, if I make dendro cores here, and the triple kenki are spread out like this, the middle core could hit all 3, but the 2 on the side can only hit 2 of them. In this case, by burgeoning all 3, I can get the max hits of 2 instances on all 3 kenki by having 3 cores. So, all 3 get the max instances of 2. If I only had 2 cores, I would get less hits, maybe even only 3 to 5 hits. This brings me to the next point. Dehya's field covers a large area. If you fill the area with other AoE skills, you can get burgeons even if the enemies and cores are far apart. The way this works is because Dehya's coordinated attacks work with skills and burst. So, if you have a large field like Ayato or Kazuha's burst, it will coordinate, even if the enemies are far apart. In this example, Kazuha swirls Hydro, and then Yaoyao's bunny can also hit all 3 enemies. So all 3 enemies get blooms by them. Then, Kazuha's burst or the bunny can trigger Dehya's coordinated attack. And even though the enemies are far apart, all the blooms can be burgeoned and results in 5 hits, meaning no cores are wasted. If you compare this to Toma, since his Pyro coordinates with only normal attacks, and they're local and directional, they can only hit the cores in front of him. This is a part of Dehya's utility to cover a large field of unsuckable enemies like the Kenki. Finally, I really think Dehya's Pyro application isn't that slow for Burgeon, because you need time to make blooms, and based off of the Abyss team I suggested, it's enough time to usually get 2 to 3 cores. Now, the number of cores you can make is heavily dependent on your environment and team members, but I'd like to use some example runs to illustrate this concept. In these runs, I'm counting the number of burgeons and the number of hits that are applied to enemies, in between the coordinated Pyro attacks. As you can see, I'm not getting 5 cores, and 4 is very rare. I'm usually getting 2 to 3, and with a good Hydro applier like Shincho. Additionally, you can see Dehya's large area of effect is able to burgeon cores that are far apart, and increase the effective area of the burgeons. From those runs, here's the average number of burgeons per coordinated attack. As you can see, it's a little over 2, meaning she's getting enough to get the max burgeon damage on at least one enemy. All in all, getting the max number of burgeon hits is a good thing, because it's more consistent, and I can expect a certain amount of damage per rotation. In engineering terms, the limiting factor of burgeon damage is the number of cores you can make, and therefore, to get the max damage per Pyro instance, you want 2 or more dendro cores, Because Dehya can average a little over 2 cores per Burgeon, she's getting the max damage consistently, which allowed me to use this kind of team that only relies on Burgeon damage to get max stars in the Abyss. So I think Dehya has some utility in Burgeon teams, including the large area of effect, and also the slower Pyro rate means max Burgeon damage is almost guaranteed. And I didn't really talk about it, but because of her damage mitigation, you can use Ayato or Nahida on field, and they can survive all of that burgeoning. In my teams, I was just playing it safe by using Yaoyao and Xingqiu. Dehya also has some Pyro availability with 2 on-demand AoE Pyro attacks with her skill, and you can also use her burst to burgeon. Luckily, the damage does not depend on her burst, so when building her artifacts, you don't have to worry about energy recharge at all. You can just look to maximize her elemental mastery and get the damage that you need. In that sense, I find Dehya and Burgeon to be pretty low investment, since she works well with 4-star characters like Xingqiu and Yaoyao, and you also have some 4-star options with the weapon. And in my previous showcase, she was only level 80. Of course, because of the large area of her field, she also does nicely with Ayato and Nahida. And you can also mix in Kuki or Raiden Shogun to have Overvape, Burgeons, and Hyperbloom all in one team. When it comes to Dehya, there have been a lot of complaints, but I think Burgeon teams are a good option for your C0 Dehya to contribute to damage. Even though I don't necessarily want to convince people to pull for Dehya, especially since she is joining the standard pool, I hope this is helpful for people who pulled for Dehya anyway and just want to try out some teams. Now, I'll just have a short showcase with Ayato. Again, this showcase is just a possibility. It's not a perfect run by any means, and my Ayato is not that well built, but they still can handle the Abyss with no problem. While I think including Xingqiu makes my team feel immortal, using Ayato's slash attacks to trigger Burgeons does feel really smooth and satisfying. And if you have a strong Ayato, he can get a lot of damage too. The builds will be at the end of the video if you're interested. Thanks for watching, and you can join us for more discussions and testing during my live streams on Twitch at twitch.tv/tiger7. Alright guys, see you later and enjoy the showcase.
安らかにいざ風を知れ心配無用風の歌雲の行くごと行くよイエベ怖くない怖くないあっそこだ耐えられるかな三尺の修正風の赴くままに雲なく借りなくせーのあっゆえぐえでばけんえよそれそこだやるか神里流スイーいざ怖くない怖くよっせっはっほほし風の赴くままに風の歌雲の三尺の修正そろそろ本気を出すかせーの動かないでね総流水泳よっ風の行く先をいざここであんたを潰す安らかに心配無用もみちがちら手加減なしだと痛いに飛んでけよっせっと三尺の修正風よはっやるかせーのはっせっ
総流水泳
動かないでね。
剣入よっ
風の行く先を風の雲の
手加減なしでも
安らかに
耐えられるかなかなかだ
風を知れ
久々の獲物だ親戚が示していた永遠のオアシスのために
風の赴くままにお道をちら
神里よ水泳
行くぞはっ汚れた異動
総流水泳
とせ風の行く先を
安らかに
これから
雲借りな
やるか
動かないでね。痛い。
剣入よっ